Done with the previous group. I would invite each of you to come forward to the podium for your initial 3-minute opening introductions, and then from that point forward, we'll have you return back to your seats and answer questions from your seats. We have a timekeeper in the front row that's going to make sure that you stay on track. We'll be asking the exact same questions that we asked the last group in the exact same order. We all drew numbers. You all got the odd numbers, and the highest number goes first, and so the order will be Steve, Christy, and then Randy. So with that, please welcome me, or join me in welcoming Steve Shute to the podium.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. DeVore and the Gardner Chamber of Commerce for letting me speak tonight. My name is Steve Shute. I moved to Gardner in 2005 with my wife of 21 years and my 5 children, all boys, because we felt that Gardner was and still is a great place to raise a family, of course. I'm an information technology professional who works for a Catholic health system, a multi-state entity in the area, and I've been politically active as a Republican precinct committeeman and have created a political group called the Hope for America Coalition in order to preserve the founding principles of America. Those principles are limited but effective government, living within your means, keeping what you earn, and helping your fellow man on a voluntary basis. Now, you understand that sounds like common sense ideals, but unfortunately in politics, common sense is all too often in short supply. The first word that anyone will use to describe me, if they know me, is passionate. I have a strong, established belief system. First and foremost, I am running because I believe that Gardner and the City Council, but especially the citizens of the city, desperately want to return to normalcy. Those of you who have lived in Gardner for more than 4 years remember a time when the City Council members were actually elected. And when they were elected, they served out their term. We've had a very exciting last 4 years, I assure you, but you can rest assured that if you elect me, I will serve my term and we will not need to have the mayor appoint someone to fill my spot. I believe that Gardner is a hidden jewel in Johnson County. That's why I live here. But I also believe that this city can be even better than it is. If you elect me, I intend to accomplish this by building trust with the citizens, which requires sound fiscal management of their tax dollars and pursuing responsible economic development so that Gardner will continue to be a great place to live and to do business in. Sound fiscal management means living within your means and not depending on residents to shoulder upwards of 85% of the current tax burden. Once we build the bedrock of fiscal management, that will allow us to pursue responsible economic development. Without commercial development and support of prudent light industry projects, we cannot leverage the intermodal that's right on our doorstep, and we will continue to force residents to pick up the tab for our schools, our public safety needs, and our vital infrastructure such as roads, sewers, and water. In short, I believe that Gardner has a very bright future, but we have a short window of opportunity to seize this initiative now and in the months to come to attract the kind of business and commercial development to get us there. We need to put the open for business sign back on the door to Gardner, for this is the key to our future. I believe that we have the tools, that I have the tools and abilities to help lead the city, and I would be very honored and privileged to have your vote on April 2nd, 2013. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Up next, please join me in welcoming Christy Harrison.
Good evening. My name is Christy Harrison, and I'm running for City Council because I believe in a governing body which is focused on a strategic, unified vision for the city. My family's lived in Gardner, Kansas since 1997. We moved here. There was a town of 6,500 people. We've had the privilege of seeing Gardner triple in size and still managed to keep most of the qualities of life that drew us to call this community home. I was appointed to the Gardner City Council in the spring of 2010. As most of you know, there's been a lot of change and turnover within the governing body and staff since this time. I look forward to a return to normalcy. We've recently hired a new city administrator whose focus currently is to create a vision for our community. Without a strategic vision, we'll continue to operate in a reactive fashion, both in budgeting and dealing with issues that come before the council. Outlining and adopting a vision is critical to being able to facilitate future growth and utilize our revenues and resources effectively. The key to a successful vision for our community is diverse representation from Gardner businesses and residents. When I say diverse in this case, I mean diversity both in thoughts and ideas, as well as demographic diversity. The work is underway, and this work is underway. With the completion of this process, we'll be able to shift from a reactive mode of operation to a proactive mode of operation. And I look forward to the upcoming months when our discussions become an equal balance between the realities and the possibilities for the future of the city. If elected on April 2nd, I will work to support adopting the community vision. I will also continue to focus on the following key areas which I think are critical. Public engagement. I'll continue to proactively seek feedback from Gardner residents on critical decisions facing the city. This does not mean simply sitting back and waiting for public comments on items or emails on various topics. It means proactively reaching out to residents, having conversations regarding issues, and seeking feedback and solutions that make sense. Maintaining our assets. A strategic plan needs to be developed, funded, and implemented that allows for a formal, sustainable maintenance program to maintain our assets in water, wastewater, electric, streets, and parks. This plan must also address development, recognition, and retention of city employees. Growth. A proactive environment that enables the success and growth of existing businesses and the recruitment of new business is the first step to retention and development of commerce. I believe any person should be able to come to the council with a business idea, be treated professionally and with respect. It is then the decision of the council utilizing feedback from residents and staff to determine if the business proposition supports the city's overall vision. Fairness and open-mindedness, most importantly, I believe any and every item that comes before the Gardner City Council should be assessed without prejudgment. I believe that each cost, ordinance, resolution, or idea should be reviewed and given serious consideration, and that the council members should collaborate to find workable solutions. Thank you.
Christy, thank you. And our final candidate this evening, Randy Grigorski. Please join me in welcoming Randy.
Thank you, Steve. And thank you for having me today. My wife and I moved to Gardner, Kansas about 6 years ago. And we moved here because it was safe, a safe community, and had some great amenities. As a client relations manager that manages several properties here in the Johnson County area and an Eagle Scout, I feel like I have the leadership that it's going to take in order to win your vote, quite frankly. As an avid hunter and sportsman and a pro-Second Amendment person, I also believe that that we're going to be able to continue to keep that as a focus and move forward. Our family attends church here locally, and we strive to raise our daughter of 15 months old with Christian values. And again, as a proven business leader and an Eagle Scout, I believe as a sitting councilman, I'm going to be able to serve the community. And serving the community through a pro-growth second-tier residential development strategy with common sense and policy governance is important. I've got three platforms: public safety, citizen and city visioning, jobs, and capital investment. Let's start with public safety. There's 3 items under that bullet. I think we need to continue to support the police initiatives that keep our community safe. For example, we need to be able to support the initiative of keeping vehicles, the police vehicles, in a position that they're operable 100% of the time. Second, under public safety, is to continue to support school safety through intergovernment efforts. So reaching out to the Board of Education, reaching out to the superintendent, and focusing on the safety of our children in those facilities. And then continue to support local and local police department and the sheriff's department, and really drive the idea of partnership between those two entities. The second item is citizen and city visioning. We have 3 items underneath that bullet point. Engage citizens and their recommendations. Really listen to them and understand what they value. Engage the Gardner business leader and their initiatives. Understand the leadership of the entrepreneurs. Moving to jobs and capital investment. We are open for business. Get the sign up and embrace the core values from a pro-growth perspective. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll have Steve, since you went first on that, we'll pass the microphone down to Christy, then we'll rotate in that order. Again, we'll have the same series of questions. Timekeeper there in front of you to keep you on track. All right, I'll read the question 2 times so you make sure you understand it. All right, question number 1. In your own words, please describe the role or function you feel a city council member performs, and most importantly, how it impacts our community. All right, again, in your own words, please describe the role or function you feel a city council member performs, and most importantly, how it impacts our community.
From my perspective, I think the role of a city council member is to represent the community. And I think that that's the important part about that is sometimes as a council member, you have to be willing to put aside your personal beliefs and biased opinions to support the request of the greater good. That's democracy. So I think that a council member needs to be open-minded. They need to be thoughtful that there are others that differ in their opinion and perhaps their vision for the community. They need to be approachable so that they receive that feedback. And then they need to be willing to, at times, maybe sway from their own personal beliefs to represent the majority of the residents. To me, you're the voice. It's not just the day-to-day a resident has a concern or an issue or a complaint. It's longer term. It's more global than that. It's laying out the vision for the future. It's planning 5, 10, 15 years out and understanding the impact of the decisions that you make today and how it's going to impact the future. And making sure that you can communicate that to people and solicit feedback on those types of issues.
Role of a councilman and community impact. The role of the councilman should be first and foremost representation. If a constituent had an issue and the councilman was available to discuss it, which I think is very important to be in the community, the councilman needs to take that issue or take that challenge or take that concern and bring it forth. Be mindful of the issue and its impacts. And basically just provide the due diligence that it would take in order to communicate that the issue was heard. The impact on the community. So based on that issue and based on the direction of the issue and the votes obviously that the issue may arrive at, we'll need to be mindful of how that affects the community. With that being said, you also want to be able to align with the visioning of the city, with the core strengths of the city, and understand at a very simple level how that's going to drive and impact the city as a whole.
Okay, when it comes to City Council, I think that there's 2 aspects of our job or role that we need to concentrate on. The first one is to be a sounding board. We have constituents, those constituents elected us to those offices, and they expect to have their voices heard in those chambers. The second one is to be the most informed person on those issues that we can possibly be, because there are people within the city that do not have the ability or the time to be able to get educated on those issues, yet our decisions are going to directly affect them. So we want to be the best informed council members, the most informed civic servants as we can possibly be. Our impact, both in the short and the long term, is immense. We have an example of this in a very recent history, and that is the intermodal. The decisions that were made by a mayoral majority of the council have definitely had a detrimental impact on our community. And so we want to be able to have thoughtful dialogue. We want to work together. We want to be unified in our purpose, not necessarily being yes men or being falling in line and being right down the line in agreement with the mayor or with any other individual, but as thoughtful participants in a common goal, which is to make Gardner the best place that we can possibly make it to live for everyone, and not just one constituency or another. And I think that that's what's been missing for the last 4 years. I promise that I will do my best to try to move in that direction if I'm elected as a city council member.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, Randy, you'll be first. Here's the question. If elected, your primary responsibility lies in representing your constituents in front of the entire city council. Thus far in your campaign efforts, what is the #1 issue you have heard from your constituents, and how would you address that issue? Again, if elected, your primary responsibility lies in representing your constituents in front of the entire city council. Thus far in your campaign efforts, what is the #1 issue you have heard from your constituents, and how would you address that issue?
So if I were elected, and I would be humbled to accept your vote, when I'm in the community, up at the coffee shop, at church, the two things that I hear is growth, city growth, and jobs. And as an elected official, those are two items that I'm passionate about myself. Because if a city is not growing, it's dying. That growth needs to be mindful, it needs to be aligned with a vision, it also needs to be progressive. With growth, the second item would be jobs. Much of our community is a bedroom community to the greater Kansas City metro area. I don't think it's realistic to say that we're going to be able to bring in high-paying jobs immediately, but I think we need to position ourselves to begin to think about that. We have the intermodal in our backyard, and there's a lot of ancillary businesses that will thrive with the intermodal as the hub. So those jobs, we need to be able to focus through that visioning process and entice those types of jobs to our community so that a larger portion of our community can stay in our community, both employment as well as live in our community.
I turned on this microphone because I didn't want to be hitting the table, so my bad, Randy. The biggest issue that I've heard, and I've been talking to people for quite a while throughout the city, we've just gone through 3 major tax issues that have hit this community pretty hard. We've had a wastewater, a sewer and water tax increase. We've had a 5 mil property tax increase. Both these happened in the middle of a recession, and then also a $75 million bond issue that was approved by the citizens of this community by less than 10 percentage points, which has now again reestablished us as the highest per capita mill levy for a school district in the state. And so my constituents are telling me that they want their tax burden lowered. And the way to lower residential tax burden is to encourage responsible business development. And you're going to hear this over and over again, and that is, in order for us to be able to take the burden off the residents of this community, we've got to pursue a 3-legged stool. Big box retail, small business, and light industrial. We have the intermodal on our doorstep. We cannot afford at this point to ignore it. We have a very short window of opportunity, and I guarantee you that I will do my utmost to try to encourage responsible development, to try to broaden the tax base and take the burden off the people of this city.
I hear items in two key areas. One, I think both Steve and Randy talked about as well, is the perception from the business community about how easy it is to do business within Gardner. And we actually I hear that perception carried through from our existing businesses as well. Difficulties with everything from building permits to the existing utility rates. So I think that there's a focus that we need to place on attracting new businesses, and I don't mean just going out and marketing and how do we get businesses here. I mean, what internal processes do we have in place that make it difficult for businesses to work through? We need to simplify those, and that doesn't mean that we do things that are not needed, or that we don't do things that are needed. It means that we prioritize and place value on things that are really important when a new business is coming to town. I also think that from a rate perspective of utility rates, sewer and water, we did have a pretty significant rate increase, and I can sit up here and argue whether that was justified or not and what drove us here. But the fact of the matter is, it was a rate increase, and we need to determine and focus on how we're going to control those in the future.
Very good. Thank you. All right, next question. Mr. V asks, what are your thoughts about expanding the role of Parks and Rec to provide more activities and facilities in Gardner to encourage kids and families to spend more time, therefore more money, here instead of going to surrounding larger communities? Again, what are your thoughts about expanding the role of Parks and Rec to provide more activities and facilities in Gardner to encourage kids and families to spend more time and therefore more money here instead of going to surrounding larger communities?
Wow, I think that, thank you for the question, Mr. V. First of all, I think that the Parks and Rec Department, of all departments in the city of Gardner, has done a tremendous job in providing for additional activities. I think we have a range of activities and things to do for families in this community that's nearly unrivaled for a community of our size in this county. I think they've done a really good job. The aquatic center is a jewel. I don't know how many of you spent time by the pool this summer, but it was packed almost every day that I would drive by or go in there. And so it's definitely something that we can be proud of in the community. And the Parks and Rec Department is net positive when it comes to revenue, which is also a very good thing for any agency of its size. So I think that what we need to do is we need to focus again on trying to keep people in the community, not just with Parks and Rec, but also with how many of us go to Olathe to do our shopping, for example. We have a lot of people who go to Olathe to do our shopping because we don't have those kind of opportunities in Gardner. We'd like to attract those. We'd also like to begin to let the Parks and Rec people use their money that they are making on that to be able to expand their current facilities and offerings. But I don't see a lot of problems right now with Parks and Rec. They are doing a tremendous job.
I would echo what Steve said as far as Parks and Rec. Sitting on the council, that's probably one area that I receive the most positive feedback of any area. People love our parks, even people from out of town value and think that we, for a community our size, have excellent amenities in that area. I think that Parks and Rec today does a very good job. Any program that they introduce that's new, they track it and they do their best to make sure that if they're going to carry that program forward, that it supports itself. We have a lot of diversity and ideas. Jeff Stewart and that group are not afraid to try new things. It happens quite frequently, and everything from cookie making to boot camp that I think they're getting ready to start. I think I've heard quite a bit of feedback from some people regarding a community center and building a community center. And what I say to that is, what are you willing to pay for it? I mean, that's really what it boils down. We can sit here and I think everybody, if you ask, do you want more parks? Do you want a community center? Everybody would naturally say, yes, that would be great. Okay, is it great enough for your taxes to increase $500 a year? And that's what it boils down to. I think that we can support building that. I think as a council member, I would support that if residents were willing to pay for it.
I think that's a great question. And right out of college, I was a school teacher for 5 years as a physical educator. And so I understand the value of a healthy lifestyle. And with Jeff's group and the parks and the pool, that encourages that healthy lifestyle. And quite frankly, that was part of the reason why my wife and I moved to Gardner, because of those types of amenities. Expanding the parks, I would have to agree with Christy. I think there's an inherent cost to that, and I think that we would have to understand the priority, whether it's more green space or whether it's a community center. Additional to that would be, with residential growth, comes an opportunity to position additional green space and parks within those communities, so that it makes it easier for our children to get to the playground in a safe proximity from home. But at the end of the day, I don't see a lot of improvement, if you will, with Jeff and his team. I think they're doing a phenomenal job. I think that the pool speaks for itself. And we just need to understand what the priority from a citizen's perspective is. And if it's more green space and parks and a community center, then to Christy's point, what are we willing to do to support that cause?
Next question. Economic development in and around Gardner should quickly increase with the opening of the intermodal later this fall. The potential currently exists to attract new businesses, both large and small, to locate within our city limits. What businesses or industries do you feel are most appropriate to dedicate time and resources towards that would complement the products and services already offered in our community? One more time. Economic development in and around Gardner should quickly increase with the opening of the intermodal later this fall. The potential currently exists to attract new businesses, both large and small, to locate within our city limits. What businesses or industries do you feel are most appropriate to dedicate time and resources towards that would complement the products and services already offered in our community?
As we all know, and we've talked about it throughout this, growth is very important. Diversifying our tax base is very important. The focus on economic development is critical. I think that through the vision process that is happening today, a lot of these questions and discussions are going to occur. From my perspective, I'm a realist, and so I think we naturally know that with the intermodal going in, we know that there's going to be an opportunity for warehouses. We may not necessarily like that, but in my opinion, that's the reality of the situation. So we need to determine how we're going to manage that. The other thing is support industries. We will need restaurants, we will need gas stations. I hope that we have the luxury of getting a hotel. I think that there's plenty of opportunity within that retail sector that will be required to support the employees and the visitors of the intermodal. I think that warehousing, and, you know, the Kansas City metro area is kind of known right now for focusing on some biosciences, and I think a lot of us would love to have some of that business out here. We need to be familiar with that. We need to be able to understand what opportunities are there with that and how we can maybe leverage some of that as well.
Great question. So my examples from a small example would be services, food services, and other ancillary services. Then the next one would be hotel. I think that the city of Gardner could use a second hotel, and I think with the intermodal, there's going to be that transient need, if you will. The second item would be on the larger scale, would be manufacturing. So we have an intermodal hub that can get widgets from point A to point B, so from where they're made to where they're purchased. And I think that we really need to understand what type of manufacturing, besides grains, would be conducive to that equation. The second item would be box stores, as Christy said, and then entertainment. So as our community grows, and to Steve's point, those dollars go outside of Gardner to Olathe and Overland Park. We need to understand the amenities that the community is interested in from an entertainment perspective in order to keep those dollars in our city boundaries.
This is an excellent question. First of all, I'm going to say that I do not pretend to be an expert on any specific business enterprises to attract to a community such as Gardner. First of all, we have to understand that I believe in organic growth. I believe in growth that's going to be based on markets and not based on we can plan for specific types of business development, but let the market take effect. The problem that we've got here is that we've stifled the market through bad policy in some cases, and we've put a closed for business sign on the door to Gardner, and I regret that. I think that what we need to do is encourage, be a cheerleader, a marketer for our community. I think Mike Hall, who just got hired as a community development director, is a big step in the right direction. He understands the marketing aspect of business development. We need to partner with our business partners in the community, the Chamber of Commerce, Southwood Johnson County Development Corporation, the Mid-America Regional Council. Start working to build bridges to entice companies to come here. And I also think we need to look at, again, tax policy. We need to broaden our tax base. We need to lower our tax rates. By doing so, we make ourselves more attractive to set up business here than to set up business in Olathe or Edgerton. We don't have to be flush with state money coming from other sources and be cash rich in order to be able to make ourselves attractive. We just got to do the right things and do things with common sense, and the business will follow.
Very good. 2 remaining questions. The downtown has been an identifying focal point of Gardner. What would you do or not do to ensure and promote its viability? The downtown has been an identifying focal point of Gardner. What would you do or not do to ensure and promote its viability?
Well, first, we need to embrace what we have. We talk about enticing new business to the 56 I-35 exchange or I-35 in Gardner, but I think that we need to kind of do from inside out. So we need to look at downtown, and we need to partner with those business leaders and encourage the growth from the downtown district. Part of that even may be, and you've seen many communities do this, is that they find a niche, whether it's antiquing, as an example, and they find a niche in order to provide kind of that hook, if you will, to encourage others from out of town to come to that town, which brings revenue and those dollars. So we need to start from inside out, and we need to take the square footage that we have available and incentivize that. The type of business that we would want to look at is services. What type of services will the incoming or the influx of people from the intermodal, what are they looking for? And we need to encourage that. By doing that, we're going to be able to honor that corridor and then expand from there.
The development district, the downtown area has been kind of a tough nut to crack for the last several years. There have been downtown enterprise districts that have been created. Our most recent enterprise district lapsed in 2009, was not renewed. And with the advent, understand this, tax policy drives a lot of development and also drives a lot of business failure. In 2010 and 2011, we had tax rates go up, tax increases to occur on small businesses within this city that were out of proportion, quite frankly, to tax increases that hit the rest of the residential community. See, our property values went down, so the impact of our tax increases weren't really felt. But to businesses that were living on that razor's edge of profitability versus loss, and they didn't get, massive decreases in their property values because most of them lease their properties. They don't own their properties outright. So when those property taxes went up, it directly and devastatingly had an impact on those businesses. I would say we need to lower those tax rates, lower those millage rates, broaden the tax base. Again, I keep coming to that same message over and over again. That's going to incentivize growth by itself. The intermodal is going to be the biggest driver for growth downtown. Service industries, small retail, small businesses. We're going to have an okay downtown if the government, if the tax policy in this city is revamped and gets out of the way. It will allow those businesses to come in. We'll fill those places. We have Roundhouse Coffee, we've got Cup Above. There are a lot of businesses that come in and they will come back. Just got to work on that tax aspect.
We spend quite a bit of time, I think, focusing on downtown development and what we want that to be. One of the things, I think that this is natural.